Effectively, Alien Isolation is a survival horror game in first person, and the reasons and why that drives the experience become apparent as you get further into the game. But it's really about surviving an encounter with the universe's most lethal hunter, the alien first seen in the original sort of 1979 Ridley Scott film. And you go on a journey with the lead character, Amanda Ripley, into the depths of space, where you arrive at a space station where quickly it becomes apparent that something incredibly aggressive and dangerous is on board, and the station's descended into chaos, and you're essentially moving on a journey through that environment trying to survive, and you get to confront and experience one-on-one kind of encounters with this incredibly intelligent and dangerous hunter. And it's something which I think from previous Alien experiences players have had in other games will come as kind of both a unique experience and something which, in terms of granularity and the depth of detail, will be something they haven't seen before.
Damn, I need to get through there.
We're kind of going against the grain of years worth of other Alien titles where there were hundreds of them, you had lots of firepower, you were mowing down tons of aliens at a time, and we just have one. And it's that kind of desire to go back to what we consider to be the original Alien. So we call him the Alien as opposed to an Alien. And it's significantly physically larger than other aliens that have been in games before. He's 9.5 feet tall. He's incredibly agile, aggressive, intelligent, very, very tough. And the entire experience is driven by an instinctive survival reaction from the player. We've worked very hard to communicate the lethality and danger he represents and how he's not to be taken lightly. And it's surprising how quickly, on an instinctive level at least, players come to understand how dangerous he is. And it's one of those things where we very carefully tread the line of balancing his aggression and his capability to make him tough and unforgiving, but an incredibly thrilling experience rather than a grinding experience. We give the player a lot of different interactions with the world, a lot of different ways of kind of trying to survive. We don't, even as developers, really know how any one playthrough in any particular level will play out. And we often see emergent kind of results and sort of incredible moments of tension and drama between the player and the alien that we hadn't planned for or we didn't think would happen in a particular location or a particular stage of a level. And we find, obviously for us that's both incredibly rewarding to see that happen, and it also is great. It reminds us, especially as we're going through the final phase of developing the game, that there are plenty of times where the game surprises us at what can potentially happen in it.
I think it's close, Ricardo.
Watch yourself, Ripley.
So going first person means that if you can see him, he can see you. And it's even something as simple as that causes the player to think very carefully about where I position, how I use the environment to move and stay low and hidden. And there's an incredible tension in the player, moment to moment, from knowing that when I'm hidden and I'm behind something I can't see, but I know I'm safer, but I don't know what's going on, so I have to look. I want to peek or look over or around or try and move just to see what's going on. And often the moments of terror for the player are when you don't know where the end is and when you can't see what he's up to. He's above you or below you. He isn't always on the same level as you. He could be in the vents in the ceiling. He could be in the access spaces under the floor. So even when we give you devices like the motion tracker, which is very much in the vein of the original films, it can tell you the direction the bad guy's in, and it can tell you how far away he is, but not whether he's this side of a wall, that side, or above you or below you. So it doesn't ruin the tension of the experience. But as the game goes on, the player kind of goes on a journey of becoming a better survivor. They learn to use the environment to their advantage. There are multiple pathways through every encounter space, not always through corridors or standard paths, but circumventing the world and trying to get in things or under things. And as you search around for anything that will give you an edge, anything that will give you a means to survive, you'll find there are systems in the world running the station that you can circumvent and hack and use. There are supplies and objects in the world which if you can find them and gather them, you may be able to craft something from that, or find tools that will give you some way of surviving, or different access, or ways of trying to influence what the enemy is doing. So the game really starts to grow outwards from a starting point of feeling incredibly overwhelmed and underpowered by this incredible creature. And you never feel you're safe with him, you never feel his equal, but you will feel that you at least get more options, and you start to feel that you master the environment around you.
Shall we play a game?
And when we start introducing more devices and tools and ways of interacting with the world, and the player can combine those in any number of ways, the player gets even more options. So it's never about giving the player firepower, it's never about giving the player the ability to devalue or somehow diminish the lethality of the alien as a deadly enemy. It's about the player learning to be a better survivor. We're all big fans of the series, and we were very conscious that what we didn't want to do was retcon any of the background story. We didn't want to rewrite the primary films or Ellen Ripley's journey. So with our kind of fan hat on, we went, well, you know, what areas of that story or universe are kind of black holes where the light's never been shone? What happened there? And the biggest question that occurred to us is between the end of the first film and start of the second film, 60 years pass, and nothing happened. You know, this amazingly expensive ship called Nostromo disappeared. So we started from that point, and we found this character called Amanda Ripley, who's a very natural fit to that question, because she's the character really that would have the most motivation to want to answer this question. She's 11 years old when the Nostromo disappears. Her mother's gone, and she grows up with that hanging over her head, because there are court cases and public inquiries and you know, crew error and all those sort of things that go on around that sort of stuff. And so this burning question for her of what happened to the ship, what happened to her mother. And then one day, a guy from the company, Weyland-Yutani, turns up out of the blue and says the black box from the Nostromo has been found. It's been recovered to a space station called Sevastopol, deep in space, in the same area that the ship originally disappeared. And she jumps at the chance to go on an expedition to get these answers. And very quickly finds out when she gets there that it goes from finding these answers to simply surviving. And it's very much that journey that the player's on of how does someone become a survivor? You know, how does someone grow through that experience and develop that skill set, and what's it like to, probably the single biggest question in the entire game really as far as the player experience is concerned, is what's it like to face him one-on-one without a pulse rifle? What's it like to survive against the universe's most efficient and lethal hunter?
Airlock pressurization, 75% complete.
We really wanted to choose an environment where we could have a lot of varied environment types, a lot of different places, scales of places. So rather than using the setting that the original film had, which is a single ship, we chose the space station as kind of an island in the middle of a kind of void of space. And it has a lot of different environment types in it. You've got the kind of engineering spaces. It's kind of all the services that human beings would need out in the depths of space. So it's got hospitals, it's got engineering spaces, R&R spaces, docks for starships. So there's a lot of variation in the spaces that the player moves through. And that variation of the environment, plus the enemy type of the alien that you're meeting, and the challenges of trying to move through that space to ultimately escape. We have an incredibly detailed environment, and that wasn't simply a kind of an effort on our part just to make a beautiful looking game. There is a logic to that, which is that when you have a relatively realistic environment with lots and lots of detail and beautiful lighting, we built our own engine for the game, suddenly this 9.5 foot tall, incredibly large creature becomes very difficult to spot. And just being in the dark and being alone is, you know, a base level instinctive reaction. Players, you know, will find that intimidating. And then you put this creature in it, and he's actually hard to find and see. And as you move, but we never really allow you to become over familiar with a particular space. You're always moving through an evolution of those spaces. They're always changing their function and their their assets and details so that you can't quite become too efficient at picking out the enemy from that space.
Any remaining personnel should proceed to the emergency dialogue.
The alien was never about throwing him at you constantly and domineering the space. It was we took the point of view of having, we call it low frequency, high impact. So he appears infrequently, and often it's what you do that decides whether he does. But when he does appear, it's an immensely important moment. So the rest of the time, the player's moving through the world, trying to learn to survive, trying to explore and find things that will help them. And they're going to come across other threats. The station's populated, for example, and one of the things we really wanted to focus on was that idea of ordinary people in an extraordinary situation. And unfortunately, as in real life, when you are in a life or death situation, people react in different ways. And some people find their better sides and may help you or be useful to you, and other people you shouldn't really trust or could be downright dangerous to you because their survival, they're willing to pay any price for it. So it's not simply the alien. In a way, there's a mirror, which is the alien at least is a pure killer. His motivations are simple and straightforward, and it's your relationship with him is one of pure survival. With people, which we think we should be able to have an emotional contact with, or at least be able to negotiate with, when they're dangerous or predatory, it's often for the worst possible reasons. The game's coming out in late 2014, and it's going to be on PS4, Xbox One, but also Xbox 360 and PS3 and PC. And as we get further into the year, we're going to reveal a lot more about the diversity of the experiences the player can have in the game. But also, I'm really looking forward to people learning about some of the really interesting next-gen features we've got in the game coming up. So I think people can look forward to learning about those.